The main thing is to get out of these chaotic eating patterns and get into a rhythm.
Yes.
So your body knows when it's time to digest and time to rest.
Welcome to the Wise Traditions podcast, sponsored by the Weston A. Price Foundation for wise traditions in food, farming, and the healing arts. I'm your host, Hilda Labrada Gore, and this is episode 79. It's a bonus episode on nutrition hacks. I was so excited we couldn't wait to release this till Monday. Basically, all of these hacks, they are taken from the Wise Traditions Journal, and they're highlights about how to eat for your age and stage in life, the role of fasting, how to even out your blood sugar, and even Sally's strategies for weight loss. We also include the inside scoop on the blue zones that you've heard of in Costa Rica and how you might not be getting the whole story on what the traditional diets of the people were actually like. Again, I was so excited. That's why we're giving you this bonus episode now. And if you love what you hear, you might just want to become a member of the foundation so that you can get your hands on the full journal. It is given to members quarterly for a membership fee. And we also can just offer them for sale. I think they're going for $6 or half off their usual price now through the end of June. The truth is, becoming a member is more fun than just ordering an issue or two. Anyway, we want you to know that everything that you give to the foundation, whether it's a donation or the membership fee or whatever, serves to support their work of education, research, and activism. These are the hallmarks of the Weston A. Price Foundation. So without further ado, here's the conversation with Sally where we cover highlights from the journal, Your Nutrition Hacks, bonus episode today. Welcome to Wise Traditions, Sally.
Thank you, Hilda. It's great to be back.
What we're going to do today is dive into the latest Wise Traditions journal. There's so much great information in there, and so what we're going to do is just hit highlights of it.
All right. First, I'd like to start with something we talk about in the caustic commentary section, and that's what I would call this ongoing war about the dietary guidelines. And, even after they've been proven wrong so many times, the diet dictocrats are sticking to their story.
Yeah.
That we shouldn't have foods with cholesterol in them, no butter, no bacon, lean meat, vegetables, grains. I mean, it's just the same old, same old. And one of the caustic commentaries is about this really neat guy named Yusuf Salim. So he is working on something called the Pure study, and he gave a talk in Switzerland to cardiologists, and he said, these dietary guidelines are all wrong. Saturated fat is okay. In fact, it might be protective. The vegetable oils are the bad guys. What's this thing about 5 or 6 servings of vegetables per day? He said, who thought that up? He said, it certainly wasn't the housewife who had to worry about how to pay for the groceries because they're so expensive. Salt is fine. Too little salt is bad for your heart. I mean, he went on, and it caused a furor. And his talk was up for about a week, and then they took it down.
Oh my!
Yeah.
So it was available online, and then it disappeared.
And it was taken down. Yeah.
Well, good thing he wasn't taken out, because
Yeah.
that can happen too.
Right. But then, at the same time, this Journal of the American College of Cardiology came out with an article about dietary fads. And the fads that they address are eggs and dietary cholesterol. So this is what they're calling a fad. Coconut oil, berries and antioxidant supplements, nuts, green leafy vegetables, juicing, plant-based diets, and gluten-free diets. So they said that berries, nuts, green leafy vegetables, and plant-based diets were great. Antioxidant supplements, juicing, and gluten-free diets are okay for special situations. But eggs and dietary cholesterol and coconut oil, they get the smackdown. See?
Really?
Yes. So it's a damage control against all the articles that have come out recently saying that butter is fine. There's no, it's fine to eat butter and fine to eat eggs, and cholesterol in your food is fine.
Yeah, the science is swaying our way, but they're holding on to the old stuff.
Exactly.
Why? Because they don't want to lose face?
Well, don't want to lose face. We've got 50 years of government policy. We have a food industry built on vegetable oils and not on animal fats. So there's a lot riding on this.
And there are some big names that are still touting this old science, right?
Well, some names that we would expect. This article in the Journal of the American College of Cardiology had a lot of authors. including Neil Barnard, his name is Estelstein, Dean Ornish, Penny Chris Etherton. So you would expect them to be okaying the plant-based diet. But the other author was James O'Keefe, who is a paleo guy.
Oh.
So we've sort of all gotten together here.
I see. So if people want to know more about that, they should check out the caustic commentary. That's a section that recurs in every journal, right?
Right. Caustic commentary is my column in the journal every quarter, and it's my chance to be caustic. And I usually have about 6 or 8 little commentaries about recent studies, recent trends, recent articles or publicity or whatever. I love writing it. And that is, one of the kind of stirring up parts of the journal. It kind of gets you thinking. Hopefully.
And it's an aspect and it's a perspective you won't see other places. So
that's for sure.
All right, so let's dive into some of this weight loss stuff.
Yes, our issue focused on diabetes and weight loss. Mm-hmm. So we start off with an article by Ann Childers, who talks about this horrible dietary advice that our diabetics receive. If you get the diagnosis of diabetes, you're told to avoid fats and be on a plant-based diet. They tell you that fats are going to raise your blood sugar, and this is totally contrary to the science.
Wow.
And she gives some really sensible dietary advice, which includes plenty of fats and cutting back on the carbs, especially the refined carbs. The current conventional advice is, well, you're on insulin, so you don't have to worry about your carbs. But then you still get this roller coaster with the insulin and the carbs. Mm-hmm. And of course, all of that is a huge stress on the body and can lead to all sorts of problems.
If I'm not mistaken, I interviewed someone, I believe it was Daphne Olivier,
yes,
on the podcast, and that transcript is in this issue, I believe.
Yes, we always have a transcript of a podcast in
right.
the journal, and that's in this issue, yes.
But what I was trying to get at is she actually realized that the standard advice for diabetics wasn't working for them, and that's when she decided to change tactics with her patients, because what good is it if you're getting all this advice and you're still feeling like you're on that insulin roller coaster, as you were describing?
Yes, still feeling terrible. And, the side effects are horrendous. They're relentless. And they lead to blindness, amputation, kidney failure. Well, these are terrible things that have happened to you.
Absolutely. Yeah. So people might want to consider really eating a Wise Traditions type diet to manage their diabetes.
Absolutely. And one of the things that diabetic needs more than anything is vitamin A. Vitamin A protects you against infection, kidney problems, and eye problems, retina problems. So the diabetics more than anybody need vitamin A. So they need the butter, and they need the egg yolks and liver, and need to take their cod liver oil to protect them.
And as you've said, the precursor to vitamin A is available in some vegetables.
Yes.
But the problem is it still needs to be converted, and not everyone converts it easily.
That's right, and especially diabetics. Diabetics have a very hard time converting the carotenes into vitamin A.
Yeah, so people really need to get it from the egg yolks, the liver, the things you were describing.
Yes, exactly.
Fantastic. So those are basically some highlights from the Understanding and Managing Type 2 Diabetes. What about this next article that we have in here? Couch potato or marathon runner? What's that about?
All right, this was Dr. Tom Cowan's talk at the conference, and if your listeners have never heard Dr. Cowan present, I tell you, he is just spellbinding. He's our most popular speaker at the conference and has been for many years. He speaks without notes or PowerPoint or anything. He just kind of carries you along with his arguments. So basically, he's talking about 2 things. One is, we lead a couch potato life. You can't eat like a marathon runner. You definitely have to balance your calories with your activity level. So if you are, getting older and not exercising as much, you're probably going to have to cut back on your calories. But the other thing he talks about is intermittent fasting. And this is so fascinating. The body holds on to fat for 12 hours of fasting. The body has this kind of internal clock. And after 12 hours, the buzzer goes off and the body says, you can release fat now because things are getting a little serious here. You've been fasting for a long time. So what that means is for weight loss, you just do 2 meals a day and you have a long period, more than 12 hours between the last meal and then the first of the next day.
Ah.
So that means either you're going to eat breakfast and a late lunch, or you're going to eat lunch and dinner, but not 3 meals. And that will give you a fasting period of about 18 hours. And so that's about 6 hours where your body is saying, release fat, release fat. So it's a really good way to diet. And especially because the 2 meals that you do eat, you can eat a nice big satisfying meal. And then you just don't eat. You skip a meal.
And I understand the way he told me he does it is like he'll stop eating at 6 p.m. one day, and then he won't eat until lunchtime the next day.
Yes.
And he'll actually make sure to be quite active in the morning time of the following day.
Yes.
So I guess this has some kind of special way of, like you say, making the body release fat and giving our digestive system a little break.
Yes, and also not only releasing fat, but after that 12 hours, your body does a lot to detoxify. So you get all kinds of signals after 12 hours to release fat, to release toxins, to kind of clear up the liver. And the body does not have to put so much energy into digestion that way. Now, the key to this, of course, is you want to make sure you're well nourished, that you're getting everything the body needs. And that's where those 2 meals come in. They need to be good, rich meals. You need to get all that you need during those 2 meals.
Right, we're not trying to starve our bodies.
Exactly.
Because I think people have tried fasting before for weight loss, and they end up kind of binging afterwards because they're so very hungry.
Well, they become malnourished. And the nice way about Dr. Tom's way is that you don't become malnourished. You nourish yourself very well for 2 meals, and then you fast. Then you skip a meal.
Interesting. And it's interesting, too, that in many religious practices, fasting is recommended. So there's kind of a wise tradition in that, I think.
Well, this whole idea of fasting, you know how Americans grab hold of an idea and they overdo it.
Yes.
And they think they need to fast for days and punish their body and all this. There's something kind of medieval about getting these evil spirits out of your body. But fasting in most religions was just something you did for a day. Or you didn't eat meat for a day, or you skipped a meal, or whatever. But it was never to kind of punish you. It was just to kind of cleanse your thoughts and so forth, and show respect. But it wasn't the idea of starving yourself.
Right, very different things. So people will want to dive into that a little bit more. Couch potato or marathon runner. I really like that title.
Yes, right.
All right, so let's hit this next article, Thoughts on Weight Loss.
Okay, so this is an article by me. I start with the average American. The average American has some health problems, wants to lose weight, and has a chaotic eating pattern.
Yes.
Eats between meals, there's just no planning. How do you begin? So I have 4 phases, and they're called purge, splurge, fast, and last. Okay. Purge is where you go through your cupboards in your refrigerator and you throw out all the junk. You just clear your slate.
Okay.
And then you start eating real food.
Is that the splurge?
That's the splurge part. And you can splurge. In fact, a lot of people have told me when they gave themselves permission to eat fats, to eat butter, to eat eggs and cheese and meat and all this, that they did splurge. They couldn't stop eating for a while. And that's fine. That's your body's trying to get healthy, trying to build up the nutrition. And you actually may even lose weight on that stage. It seems hard to believe, but during that splurge phase, we ask that you try to cut back on sugar, try to cut back on desserts. But the key thing in the splurge phase is that you never eat between meals. So you have 3 big meals a day. You can eat whatever you want at those meals, but you learn to eat in a disciplined way, in a pattern.
Right.
So you're not getting yourself into this pattern and dieting at the same time.
Got it.
Okay, so the main thing is to get out of these chaotic eating patterns and get into a rhythm.
Yes.
So your body knows when it's time to digest and time to rest.
That just sounds healing in and of itself. I know so many people who are like grabbing a power bar or driving through Taco Bell. They become desperate and chaotic because they're so busy working or running to pick up their kids from soccer that they just don't plan ahead.
That's right. And they've got the bag of potato chips in the car. And that's just number 1, is to get in 3 meals a day.
That sounds great.
And not worry about losing weight or anything. Just learn to get into that rhythm.
Okay.
So we have purge and then splurge, and then the next one is fast. So once you've gotten into that 3 meals a day, you're learning to just eat real food. That's when you get into Tom's thing where you skip a meal. And your weight loss will be very slow and gradual. I think I say 2 sizes in a year. And so when you get to where you want, which isn't necessarily super thin.
Right.
It's not necessarily super thin. In fact, I give a website for a really realistic body mass index and what's actually the healthiest. And it's heavier than you think. So anyway, then it's last. So the last phase, you want to be able to keep this weight off. And probably that means that you're going to have to skip meals 3 or 4 days a week just to keep the weight off. You can go back to 3 meals a day part of the time, but realistically you'll have to adjust to see what works for you.
Right, and probably taking into account, as Cowan was saying, how active your lifestyle is.
Yes, and that's also what I say. Now, I'm writing this from the perspective of someone who's a little bit older than Tom, and I'm a woman, and I'm a fairly sedentary, and I'm not very athletic, but I do love to walk, so I do a lot of walking. But sometimes you'll hit a plateau, and if you want to lose more, then you will have to exercise more, for sure.
Well, I'm glad we're addressing the weight loss thing, because I feel like a lot of people do want to lose weight, and they just really don't know how to go about it.
Yeah. People just give up. They're in despair. They've tried everything. Nothing works. They lose a little, and then they're so hungry, they give in, and then they end up weighing more than they did before. Their set point goes up. So,
oh, gosh. Yeah. But I think you're right. This is a natural way and kind of a wholesome way that's in keeping with the Wise Traditions diet of shedding the pounds without too much effort. You're not saying go to the gym every day.
No, unless you want to, but that's not for everybody. And most people don't have the time.
Right. Yeah. So purge, splurge, fast and last. I like it. All right. Well, so this next article I actually wrote.
Yes, Hilda wrote this article for us. It's called Yes, We Can. I love this article, and we're going to eventually do a bunch of memes around this theme. That in the Wise Traditions diet, there's no food group that's left out. You can have fats, you can have grains, you can have sweets, you can have salt, you can have sauces.
You can have soda, which will mean the original soda, the fermented drinks.
Yeah, soft drinks. Just the right kind and prepared the right way. And I think we need to start celebrating a diet that includes everything and not put ourselves on a diet that's a lot of renunciation.
Exactly. Deprivation just leads to that kind of binging that can happen with folks, where you feel like you're, as you say, abstaining, and then you go to the pornographic diet that you've called, Sally, where it's like suddenly all the ice cream and the chips because you feel so like you've got to reward yourself for depriving yourself. Yeah. It's crazy.
There was a wonderful article years ago by Barbara, I think her name is Ehrenhart, and she called it the hair shirt under the fur coat. Because, you're putting on this great image to the outside world, and you're nice and slim and everything, but you're on this terrible renunciation path.
Right.
And you just feel horrible, and you feel deprived, and you feel cross and grouchy, or maybe even envious, who knows. And that's not good. Really, meal times should be times of enjoyment and peace and relaxation and not renunciation. That's no fun.
Little did I know, I'm going to tell my little story. I'm a slim person and an active person, but when I was in college, I remember I made up a little diet of my own. I'm sure people do this. I would try to only eat 5 things a day. My goal was 5 things a day. It didn't matter exactly what they were. But if I ate more than the 5, Sally, I would get a jump rope and just jump rope at the end of the day to kind of try to work it off. Because I thought calories in, calories out. And I really looked at food as just something to fuel me to get what I wanted to get done. I didn't look at it as something to nourish my body. Yes. And unfortunately, I stayed in that mindset for a while with my children. I just would throw, fish sticks and little carrot pieces at them for dinner, just doing the best I could. But now I know food can be so nourishing. Now that I've discovered the Wise Traditions diet, I'm so into it. And that's why I wrote this article, because I thought it's amazing to me that we don't have to have cheat days or days where we punish ourselves, right? It's like all on the table, and it's so satisfying and good that you don't tend to overdo.
Yes, if your diet includes 20% of food that's not on the diet, 20% cheat food, there's something wrong with the diet. I mean, the diet that you eat, everything should feel like cheat food,
Yeah.
It should all be good and delicious and just the right kind. I mean, we all need fats. Do you want to cheat on potato chips or cheat with butter? I mean, butter's actually not cheating, but what I'm saying is you should never feel like, oh, I'm just going to bear what I'm eating now and then I'm going to go out and splurge. No, your meal should feel like splurging, really.
Yeah, it's kind of like the French have that saying, gourmet ou gourmand.
Gourmand.
Gourmand is the person who's just kind of gluttonous.
Yes, yeah.
And maybe
eats anything. Yeah.
Eats anything, and maybe is feeling, like they've got to deprive themselves, but they can't help themselves. And a gourmet just is really relishing all the myriad of tastes. And that's how I feel like the Wise Traditions diet has brought me to a new appreciation of really good food and satiation.
Yes, exactly.
That's fantastic. So I'm high on it, as you can tell. So read that article. Yes, we can. And then let's touch on this last one, Sally. Traditional foods in Costa Rica. What is that article about?
Oh, I love this article. So as you know, or you may know, there's this book called The Blue Zones, which is about these places where people live long lives. And the thesis of the Blue Zone is if you want to have a long life, you have to have a low-fat, plant-based diet. So one of the places is Costa Rica. In fact, the author of this book said in Costa Rica, he found that the people were the most lively and with it of any of the elders that he had visited. And he ended up by saying they were on this low-fat, plant-based diet. Well, Gina Baker, who lives in Costa Rica, she wrote to us and she said, this isn't right. I know how these people eat, and their favorite food is lard. Lard and chicharron, which is, cracklings. So she went to this nursing home, and at one point, I think there were 45 centenarians in the nursing home.
Amazing.
And she interviewed quite a few of them, and all of them talked about eating pork and lard. And she said when the villagers came down into the city, they went to the market and bought up all the pork and all the lard. That's what they wanted. They didn't want corn and tortillas. They wanted pork and lard. And they had raw milk and quite a few eggs. Eggs are a really big food item in Costa Rica.
So how did the Blue Zone guy miss the mark?
Well, it's funny because in his book, and I know this because I'm writing a series of blogs on this right now, in his book he talked about this guy who goes to the market and fills up these 2-liter jars of lard because he's going to cook dinner for his family. But he ends up by saying this is a low-fat diet. So he's totally contradictory in the chapter himself. Another wonderful thing that Gina did was ask people what they had when they were young and what pregnant women ate. And what they ate was something called sustancia, which was this soup that had lard and pork and all different types of organs in it, and pig's feet. Sustancia. So this was for the pregnant women. It was called sustancia, which means sustenance.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Wow. So it's not everything is as it appears.
Yes.
People sometimes see what they want to see.
Yeah.
I guess what I'm saying is maybe this author was actually looking out for certain things and disregarding what was right before him.
He had an agenda, I think.
That's...
But I just have to laugh when you actually find out that something is so different than what people's expectations are. Here, all these centenarians are eating lard, and one of the old folks said, the people come and they study us and they don't believe us when we say we ate lard. But he said, what else did we have? We didn't have vegetable oils when we were growing up. And he remembered the day he first saw cottonseed oil on the market, and I think it was 1926 or something. But he said, we just didn't have vegetable oils. We had lard.
They had the natural fat from the animals that they rendered into lard.
Right.
Wow.
It's also a big beef raising area. I mean, this Nicoyan Peninsula, where these elders are, has been famous for its livestock forever. We ate lots of meat.
Oh, well, that is fascinating. And I'm glad Gina got face-to-face with these people. I want to get her on the podcast.
Oh, yes, she'd be great. Yeah.
I would love to talk to her. So the journal is just jam-packed with amazing information. We just touched on a few of the featured articles, but there is a lot here for everybody. And how do you get the journal?
Well, you get the journal by being a member.
I thought so.
A membership is actually a subscription to our journal, and it comes quarterly. And by the way, As soon as this journal came out, one of our members emailed us and ordered 30 more journals. She said, this is the best journal I've read for beginners. So if you're new to Weston Price, don't know quite where to start, this is the journal for you. And so just call us up and become a member.
That's right. Or you can email info@westonaprice.org and say, I want this spring journal from 2017, and you can order as many copies as you want.
Yes, and you can just order one copy and see how you like it, and then hopefully you'll become a member, so you just get all the copies.
Get it on the regular. That's right. Well, thank you for going over this with me, Sally. I loved it.
Thank you, Hilda. Well, I'm working on the summer journal now, so when that comes out, we'll have another interview about that.
Sounds great. Hope you enjoyed this bonus episode. I know I did. I learned a thing or two, which is actually always the case when I record this program. If you want more of what you heard about today, contact the foundation and become a member so you can receive their quarterly journal and annual shopping guide. Plus, you can just feel good about knowing that your money goes to support this valuable health information coming to you and also spreading it all around every time you support the foundation.